Hi, Julie Torrens here. I have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of watercolor paper, and I've got my Superior, and it's this fan shape. Now, I have seen this fan shape on for sale. I wouldn't say on sale, for as much as $50. Don't spend that. Look on Amazon. Some of them say Superior, which is the company that makes these, but there's also a company named Phoenix that has put their name on it, but they're the same paints. There's probably other companies. Those are the only two I'm aware of, but these are the paints I'm going to be using. I'm using student grade paint. I didn't grab the name of this. It begins with an H, but it's not my favorite paper, but I think it's really good. And I'm going to work towards using pretty much one brush. I may go with a bigger brush just to help things go a little faster. But we are going to, wetting my brush, dabbing on the paper towel. I do have 2 sources of water. Get yourself 2 jelly jars, something like that. And we're going to get started from the beginning. From the beginning, very beginner. I'm grabbing some orange, just a basic orange. I don't have the names of these colors. Student grade paints are often that way. And I'm going to start out with 1, 2, 3 dots, rinsing, dab, dab on the paper towel, and bringing out some petals. Just that simple. And doing it again. And doing it again. So I don't have this taped down because I don't plan on saturating the whole paper. And what I'd like this to be is that you can turn around and put these on your scanner, grabbing the same orange, little bit of water. I dried it off a little too much. All right, I'm going to go right here, dot, dot, dot. Be sure you leave enough room between. Sometimes I don't. And I just wet my brush, dab, dab, and I'm doing this again. And they're just teardrop shapes. And I'm not worried about getting them like a uniform color. I'm happy if they are like this edge is a little darker. All right. I just got the tip wet. And I'm going into the same orange, and I'm just putting a few dots right at the beginning of each flower. Okay, good. And let's do it again. We'll go with a different color, and this is some type of a red shade. And dot, dot, dot. And notice my petals are not up against each other. And that's on purpose, as well as I'm leaving room between each flower. Because if you're going to be cutting these out, you're going to want some room for a pair of scissors, right? Okay, and some of these are a little fatter, some of them are a little skinnier. It's all fine. Okay, I'm going back into that red, just with the tip, putting a little bit here at the bottom. All right, I'm going back to the top one, same orange, dot, 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 rinsing, drying off on my paper towel with a dab, dab, and here comes another teardrop shape, and another. Overlapping is fine, and there. And I'm just grabbing some of this paint that I had put at the base of the ones, and I'm just putting it on the base of the other. I'm going to wet my brush, dab, dab, back into that orange. It's not wet enough because I want to be able to make drop, 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 rinse, and dab off. Another teardrop. You can do this. And when you're done, and you scan this if you have that ability to scan it. I'm going to grab some of that orange and just at the bottoms of the newest ones. Okay, going back to the red, picking up that same red, not enough water, a little bit. Dot, 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 rinse, dab, dab. Now, if the colors look different, that's because they shift a little bit, which means they dry a little bit lighter. And each paint has its own, I'm just putting a little bit of the darker red at the bottom. It's the same color. Okay, going up to this one. I'm just going to add 2 to this one, at least to start. So, went a little too dry, just put my tip in the water. I'm going to put a dot here and a dot here. Rinse, dab, dab on the paper towel. And when they overlap, this is when you get that sheer or transparent look, like you're seeing through some of the petals, which I really like. All right, I'm going to add a couple more to this one. Get a little, I could tell I dried it too much. I'm going to put one here, here, here. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one in between all. They're all pretty far apart. And make my teardrop. I'm just ignoring what's under it, not letting it influence me. And I'm just making petals, teardrop shapes. Now, will the one I'm working on look just like the one that I finished or that one? No. I'm going to get a little more orange for right there. Rinse, dry off, and I'm putting another petal right in here. Good. All right. The red one. Same kind of a thing. It's awfully spaced out. Let's start with 3 dots. 1, 2, 3. Rinse. A little drying off on the paper towel. And there's 1 petal. 2 petals. Just because they're the same color and, you know, the same flower. One can have 6 leaves. One can have, I'm putting 1, 2, 3 more. That doesn't matter. You know, maybe a rabbit grabbed one of the petals while it was going for the greenery and pulled a petal off. We don't know. We weren't there, and it doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on all that. You know, nature is rarely all symmetrical and the same. Okay, I think we've got 3 nice flowers, and those are those dot dot flowers that you're used to. Okay, let's go with another one. Now, for this one, I'm using my glue stick. Maybe you have a lipstick or something, and I'm going to give this a round circle for a, and yeah, it got a little wonky. That's all right. It's just a guideline. And 1 more. And I'm thinking about leaving enough room between these and this. And let's put that down. Okay. Same brush. And I'm going to go into a yellow. It's a bright yellow. And for this one, I'm going to do 4 across from each other, 4 like a clock. Rinse. And these are going to be long and skinny. Good. I'm going back into that same yellow, and I'm just going to put it in a little bit of a different place so that I'm not running straight into this one. Rinse, dab, dab. This one's a little lighter, that's okay. Maybe one was in the shade and one was more in the direct sun. Flowers can fade. Okay, and we'll do this one a different color. What color? I will go into, I'm going to go into a red, but a different red than what we just used. Maybe it'll look different, maybe it won't. I really don't know. One, not too much different, huh? 3, 4, kind of an orange red. That's all right. And bringing out a petal, bringing out a petal, long skinny petal, long skinny petal. Okay, good. Let's go back to that first one. Wet my brush and get some of that yellow. Dot, 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 dot. Rinse, dab, dab. Now, let me know in the comments. Julie, yes, I can do this, or Julie, no, you're way, way ahead of me. I don't think I am. I think anyone can do this. It's just a little bit of a matter of kind of knowing how. All right, over to this one. Same yellow. Dot, 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 dot. Rinse, dry. Kind of close here. That's all right. Okay, water came down my brush, so I'm just picking up a little water. I dried my brush a little bit. Okay, good. Now, back to this. I think, which red did I use? I don't remember. I'm going up here. They both look the same wetness. I might have grabbed the right one. I might have grabbed the wrong one. Don't know. Once it's spread out, you can see one is a little more orange than the other. I think I grabbed the right one. Okay. Good. Okay. Now I'm going back up to this one. Same yellow that I've been using, and I've got some water coming down. Get a little more color. And I'm going to put some in between. I just did 3. And I rinsed and I dabbed it off. So how are you? Now, going back into that same yellow, and I'm going to keep working on this one. 1, 2, 3. Rinse. When I get a drop of water on this ferrule, it will charge down into the brush, and then I'll get a great big water blob. And I don't want that. So how do you avoid it? I haven't figured that out yet. 1, 2, and looks like that'll, at least for now. A little too much water, that's okay. All right, that looking good. They're crisscrossing a little bit, but when you go to cut them out, you'll be able to decide. I would not discard them because of that. Rinse, dry off the brush. I'm going to keep going with this one. Dot, not enough water. Dot, dot, dot. Rinse. Can you see how that circle just kind of helps me? Otherwise, I end up with such a small center. I mean, that could be just a Julie thing, but that happens to me. I just put my tip of the brush in the water. I'm going to put a dot there, put a dot there, and I think that's good for now. Okay, now back to this reddish, orangish color. I got way too much water. Rinse, dab, dab. Looking good. Back into the pigment. 1, 2, 3. Go in between rinse. Dry off my brush. Good. Tip of the brush in the water. A little bit of paint. Good. All right. Nice. Okay, good. Gonna go back to these. I am going to pick a different color. I used an orangey orange, and I'm just gonna go what I think is about 1 step darker. And I'm just kind of activating the water. All right, I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, rinse. Now I'm gonna make these a little smaller. Whoop, water on the ferrule. All right, a little bit smaller. Nice, okay. Same over here. Dot, dot, dot. And a little bit smaller. If you're looking at it and thinking, I can't really see a difference, you will. You will, don't you worry. Okay, for this one, I'm going to find a color that looks to me a little bit darker. I think this is going to be a totally different shade, but I'm going for it. Dot, 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 rinse. Going smaller. Nice. Okay, going back to that first one. Picking up some of this darker orange. I'm going to get a little water on the tip. And 1, 2, 3. Rinsing. Dab, dab on the paper towel. This watercolor paper is working fine for this. I'll try to remember to put it in the description. I'm going back with that orange. I'm putting a dot right there, a dot right there. Dry, not really dry, but just dab, dab. Okay, good. I'm gonna come down to this one. Same, a little bit darker orange. I had some water come rushing down my brush, but it went into the paint. All right, here, 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 and dry. Good. Grabbing a little more paint, I'm going to put one here, here. That might do it. And little petal there, little petal there. I'm seeing a gap right here, so I just added a little paint right there. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, this one. Going into whatever this red shade is. Going in between. And I think that'll do it for that one. Looks good. Okay, good. Now, these. I'm going to put a whole nother row. I'm going to be pretty much just using pigment. Maybe I'll put some dots in, but this is going to go a little bit faster because I think you're kind of getting the idea. And I'm going to keep going in that same yellow. The paint dried up on me a little bit. Let's loosen it up a little bit. There we go. All right. And putting some dots in between. Heading for the white areas, grabbing a little more pigment and just running it right up those white areas. A little bit of pigment. And a little bit more pigment. Just kind of filling it in. I'm gonna rinse my brush. Start over. I like that just fine. Going down here to the next one, and I'm just ignoring the one where they're touching. Like I said, when it comes time to either ink them up, you know, draw on them with the ink, which I normally do for flowers that I'm going to be cutting out, because I just think it helps identify them and makes them easier to cut out. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, good. And this one. And I think it was this color. Kind of got a lot of water on my brush, so I put several dots on, which is fine. Water came down. Sometimes it comes down the ferrule, sometimes it just comes down the brush. I'm grabbing just a little more pigment. Oh, that's a lot of pigment. Let's rinse and just pick up some of that pigment, put it here. Oh, and another big water. It's okay. My brush is probably just getting really well saturated. Yeah, we're okay. And I think this particular little pan of paint has gotten real activated, so I'm picking up between the brush being a little wet and the paint being a little more activated. I'm just getting a variety of color, and you know what? That's fine. There, can you kind of see what I did? I just sort of filled in. Okay, looking good. Let's go back to these. I'm going to pick some kind of like a tan color. And I'm just going to do dots. I don't want to just draw. I'm going to get water. I don't want to just draw. I want there to be a little bit of texture going on. And I'm going to drag my brush just a few more times to get a little darker pigment for the red one. All right. I think these two are dry enough. I'm just putting the tip in, going back into that tan color. And I'm just going to go right where I put that pencil mark. And just put my tip in the color. And if it bleeds up into the flower a little bit, that's fine. Tip in the water, tip over here into the paint. That's nice. I want it darker, a little bit darker. So I'm just going up one notch to what looks like a little bit darker of a color. It looks like it's got, yeah, it's more of a maroon color. I don't care. Kind of like it, really. All right. Okay, let's let these rest for a little bit. So we've worked on round with the dot dots, more elongated petals with the dot dots, but essentially the techniques are the same. Let's do some here. Now, one of the things I like about these is to make some that are like they're coming out of the bud. So I'm going to grab some green and I'm going to do a half moon, a little bit rounded, and a bit of a stem. Half moonish, bit of a stem. I'm just going to grab a tiny bit more color. And this is going to need to dry a little bit. Just a little bit. And this one's awfully wet, so I'm picking up some pigment here and just putting it on my paper towel. Yeah, we don't need it quite that wet. None of these. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. All right. Let those dry. While these are drying, these spaces I like to use for leaves. So let's start out with some leaf shapes. I'm going to grab that same green and kind of a wettish brush, and I'm going to make a heart upside down with a stem. Fill it in. And now I'm rinsing my brush, going into a totally different green. It does not matter. And I'm just layering it in there. May not see it now. You'll see it when it dries, that there's just a little variance. It's not going to be real specific. I'm going to put another one right here. Fill it in. Little stem, rinse, going into that other green. And I'm just putting a little bit of that in. Okay. Again, into that first green. My brush is awfully wet. It does not need to be a perfect heart at all. Rinse, going into that other green, putting a few of those dots in there. Okay, nice. How are these? We're going to play with them. All right, I'm going back to this color, which I think is here. Dot, 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 rinse. And I'm just bringing these out. Good. And I'll grab some of that yellow that I was using. Dot, 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 rinse. Good. And I guess I'll go back to the yellow since we've got two yellows. and dragging it out. Nice, good. I'm going to go back to that red. Shake some water off there. And 1, 2. I'm just going to put the 2 in. Rinse. Ooh, big drop. Did you see that? I'm going to take a dry brush and just pick that up a little bit. It'll give us a nice variance. It really will. All right. Going into the yellow. One of the things that I personally avoid, if I'm not using my little bucket that I've shown you before, is paper cups for your rinsing, because you want to agitate that brush, and paper cups tend to tip over. So I don't recommend paper cups. Jelly jars, mustard jars, any kind of a glass jar works great. And it's a great way to recycle, repurpose, reuse. All right, I'm going back to this red. I put 3 dots in. I'm going to put a 4th one in. That one got a little wet, remember? It's all right. Oh, and I just lost another drop of water. And another. And another. And another. Isn't that pretty? Sure it is. All right. Now, yellow. I've got, the water today is just giving me a little bit of trouble. And it's not the water, and it's not the brush, and it's not the paint. It's me. And that's fine. Some days are just like that. Embrace them. Well, I'm going to be doing a little more wash painting today than I planned. It's all good. It really is. Doesn't that look nice? I can see a strange little bloom right here, and I'm just going to rub it. It'll still be there to a point, but it won't be quite as sharp. All right, yellow. Put 4 dots. Dry my brush with a little dab, dab. Ah, looking good. Okay, let's work on some centers. I'm going to turn the paper. And that way I'm not dragging my hand over. And let's see. I'm going into a very light tan. And I've got a lot of water on the ferrule. It's just that kind of day. And I am going to do some little, I don't know, little seed shapes, some kind of a little shape. Like stamens. And they can go right out the edge of your center. Fine. And what color? This color. All right. Now, this one, I am going to give it the same tan, but just more dots. And now, rinsing my brush, going into a different, I think that's purple. A different shade of brown. and looks identical. I'm going to go right here. I really did not make a swatch for this set, so it's a little bit of a guessing game. Now this is kind of a reddish brown. I think it's the same color that I used for that center. Good. I want another color in there though. I'm going to go with a light orange. It's this color. Kind of going in between in the white. Yep. I'm going to use that same orange. And I'm going in here, again, in the white spaces. And this one, in the white spaces. So yeah, I'm, little fiddly, but that's all right. Okay, good. Let's go back to these. And I'm going to use this same brush, fairly dry. I'm going to pick up the darkest green that I can see. I've got some greens way up in here. This is kind of a blue-green, almost a tealy color. That's fine. I just have it on the tip. I'm using a fairly dry brush. And I am just going to make some lines. I'm using that real tip of my brush. And I'm going to put some dots along the top. Since this is such a big brush for such small work, it's hanging on to the paint. I'm not having to go a whole lot back and forth. There. Those look nice. Very nice. Good. All right, these three. Wetting my brush, leaving it on the wet side, and not that wet. A big water ball was falling down. I'm just going to rub right through. You're going to get some highs, you're going to get some lows, but no white and just a little bit of texture. Rinse. This one is still pretty wet. So is this one. That one's dry, but I'm not going to risk it. Let's make some more leaves while things are drying. I'm going to go in a totally different green than I used for these. And I'm going to make some more of those. It's kind of a Kelly green. Rinse. Grab a different green. No rhyme, no reason, just another color. And put some dots in one side. Rinse. Going back into that first green. A lot of water. All right. Came out a little lighter. It's okay. Some of that same green that I used on that first one. Good. This one is awfully wet. I'm going to just pick up a little paint. Okay. And going into that Kelly greenish color. Upside down heart. Fill it in. Going into that other green. And just adding some to one side. Looks good to me. All right, good, good. I've got a little space down here. One of the things that when I have printables out there that people have said more of I don't know what you'd call them. They're just branches with leaves. Now I am not making a stem to each leaf because how would you ever cut that out? And I do make the main stem when I make these heavier than normal. And again, for cutting out purposes. Sprigs, I guess that's what I call them. A little sprig. All right, I'm just putting my tip in there. I'm grabbing a different green, just for variety. And these are just ovals. You can make it with a little tip, kind of like a almond shape, but it doesn't have to be. Let's grab just a little more paint. And a little more water, just the tip. And yes, this definitely looks heavier. But once they're cut out, they really look quite nice and they're not that hard to cut out. But, you know, I've got space. Okay. Where are we at with everything? This is still wet. Not too bad, not too bad. I'm going to leave that one alone. But I don't want them bone dry. And I'm just going over like this. And it's going to be all kinds of texture and all kinds of color. Good. Same with this one. Whoop. Oh boy. Got a big old water blop. I'll get it. Love that. I'm going to take this brush, which is drier. Oh, had a little brown on it. It's all right. Let's get another clean brush. I'm going into my clean water. That's why I have two water sources. And I'm just going to give it a little scrub. And see what I can pick up. We're just going to leave it like that. Okay, good. Look at this space. I'm going to go back to this is the brush I've been using, the number 6 Snap. And I'm going to make a couple of leaves. Again, I'm just reaching for a different green, not because of anything that it's my favorite. And I'm going to make almond shaped leaf. Now I try to make more than one of any leaf, but if I only have room for one, I only have room for one, it's fine. You can see water came charging down my brush, and now this one's a lot wetter. That's fine. All right, rinse and a little dry into that Kelly green. A few dots. Few drags. Dragging it a little bit. All right, I saw another water drop fall. Right there, just picking it up. Fine. I just don't want it to turn into a blossom. Okay, we're filling this page up quite nicely, don't you think? And we'll get this done, and then I'll do another video where we ink them all in and get them ready so that we can cut them out. All right, rinse. Let's make a couple of roses. Okay, now I'm going to find a reddish color, but roses come in all kinds of colors. This looks like one of the lightest, but I know it's quite orange. What's going on over here, over here? Let's go with this. I think it's kind of a maroony color. We'll see. All right, starting out with just a wiggly edged in kind of a circle shape. Rinse, dab, dab, and just like the dots, a little too much water, that's all right, filling this in. Turned out to be kind of a nice red, really. Now, I just learned this little technique, and when they dry, at first I didn't like them, not that well, but once they dried, I really kind of liked it. All right, same color. And again, now I don't have to worry about where the edge is because I've just made the outermost edge. Rinse. This one may turn out lighter because the initial line has a little less pigment, had a little more water on the brush. That's good. They're not all identical. There we go. Nice. Good. Let's do another one. Kind of circle-ish. Rinse. Little dab, dab. But don't mind if I have a little more water going on here. I don't want this a real heavy saturated color. I'm going to add just a tip of my brush. Head into the pigment areas. And I'm not looking for an overall perfect. I think we've got room for one more. Let's do it. Into the red. So we have done some rinse, dab, dab. There's a drop of water, perfect. We've done a good portion of the beginner flowers. And I really like what we've got done. And as I said, we're going to ink them up. But I want them good and dry. And I don't want this video to be just real overwhelming. How we doing with this? That's good. All right. I am drying my brush. It's pretty dry. Just going into that color with the tip. And I'm going to start working on this one with a little too dry. With kind of a snaily shape. Still too dry. Let's get, I went too crazy when I was drying my brush. Well, I've had so much water flying here, there, and everywhere. All right, now, C shapes. Irregular. Now, there's an opening, so I'm going to go there. And I'm pressing my brush down a little more. Tip in the water, back to that same color. And again, I'm not crazy about it, but I learned my lesson when it's dry. And I'm just making this outer rim there that I just made a little bit heavier. And last time around, and this can go right over into your edge. It's fine. I'm going to put a little mark in there. Just where I see an awful lot of space, I'm giving it just a little wiggle. All right, next one, we'll do it again. Tip in the water. Let's see. Might be too dry again, we'll see. It's all right. Going in between so that I don't have all the breaks between the petals in the same spot. I don't want that. Okay, tip in the water, here we go. Sometimes I end touching one of the others. Now I'm not seeing as much space in this one as that one, so pretty much going to call that one done. And to this one, I see water. I'm making these just a little bit heavier, just for variety. You never know. Maybe one of these was more in the sun, so it opened a little bit faster, right? I like that. Okay, one more. Just put my tip in the water. A little more pigment. Going in between. And again, I'm making these little C shapes just a little bit heavier. Little water, drag through the paint a little bit. Now I'm using a student grade paper. These Princeton snaps are in their economy kind of line. So, you know, I'm not using anything that's expensive or that would break the bank. Sure, there's cost involved. All right. Well, let's do a few more leaves. We have time? I think so. I'm going into that Kelly green again. And I'm going to make some more almond shaped ones. I've got a lot of pigment on my brush, so I'm not going to rinse it off. You can see that this one's a little lighter. I like that. Okay. I'm not even going to rinse. I'm just put the tip in, dragging through a totally different green. And just putting some little marks. And giving them just a little bit more of a tip. Nice. All right. I'm just wetting my brush. I'm grabbing another green, willy-nilly. Heavier stem. Little teardrop shape. A little more pigment. Nice. Good. Those are fun when you cut them out and use them. They really, really are. Little bit of space here. Let's go for it. Grabbing again, a different green. I like variety. And let's just give it one of these. Now, even though I'm going into different colors, many of these colors, not many, but a good number, kind of the same. You know what I mean? So I don't want you to think that I totally don't remember what I've used. It's just that kind of the same. Okay. Put a little leaf right here. It's one of those upside down heart ones. And grabbing a different green. I'm just giving it a little shade. Nice. Okay, when we get back together, this will be real nice and dry. This one we never blurred up, and I'm going to do it right now. Fairly wet brush. And there, lots of texture. Love it. When we get back together, we're going to ink these up, and we're going to have something that's going to be ready to be fussy cuts. Thanks for joining me. This is very beginner. And if you look over here, another video is going to be picked out just for you. Remember, like, subscribe. It helps my channel. Bye now.